Now, I know my aesthetics are always horrible, so I decided to put the wood stove on at the beginning of this, only so that you could see something actually nice. And it's a cold night here in Maine. We've had a lot of wind. We had a really weird weather, actually, like a lot of you guys. We're gonna have a Christmas, but there's no snow on the ground. That's bizarre and a half, but certainly strange, cold, windy, and yet there's green grass on the ground. Something to look at in a world turned upside down. And that's going to be the theme of today's show here on the 21st of December. An evening show. I don't do these too often anymore, but figured I'd come on. I kind of wish I could do a live show, but YouTube shut that down. And a lot of things we love have been lost. And that's one of the themes of this show tonight. We're going to talk about how things aren't what they used to be and just how much they aren't what they used to be. So, I am Tom Kaczynski, historian, bard, wanderer, crazy old coot up in the woods, surviving as best I can, trying to keep the phone somewhat straight. I'm actually sitting on a bar stool here, and I got my hands on my knees to try to keep them steady so that you guys can enjoy the show. Okay, so let's get into it a little bit. Some friends and I were having a chat, and they'll probably see this, and one of the things we were talking about is this world has lost its way, and we've talked about that for years on this show. We've talked about how it's morally corrupt, how it's culturally corrupt, economically, just rife with problems, but the thing is, inertia still had things going pretty good for a while. Not good, but let's put it this way, what was it I saw? The Home Alone thing, where the amount of groceries Kevin Pop cost $19 in the 90s, cost $40 in 2020, and cost $72 today. Or actually, it was 2022. Correct myself. You look at what's happening in Yemen, and you see that global shipping lanes are being moved around. You see that countries are pretty much going insane. People are being rushed around the map looking for better places because of where they were collapsed. And the places they're coming to are collapsing, partially from the weight of the people coming here, like parts of the United States, some of the cities, but really everywhere. The old world order sucked. Globalism, capitalism, corporatism, really. Not looking to have an ideological fight with this, but because ideology doesn't matter anymore. We are on to fundamental questions about the rules of order of what society is structured on. That's why we're talking about culture. That's why we're talking about religion. I mean, if you want a good flavor for this, there was a great Tim cast. I can't believe I'm saying that, but Tim Pool was on there with Luke Rudkowski, Ian Crossland, Seamus, I forget his last name, the Catholic guy, James O'Keefe, Tucker Carlson, and Charlie Kirk. And it's interesting how many of these guys are basically drawing the same conclusions that people here in the old Pineland, Heartland were talking about for years. I mean, we were right. We were way ahead of the game in many ways. But you could see the exhaustion and the question of how you fight a system in a battle. And, they put in sometimes in Trumpian terms, about someone who's being convicted because he could win an election, right? Which is pretty much what this is about on that level. But on another level, it doesn't matter. I mean, whether you get Kushner or Biden, what difference does it make, right? And yet, these fights still sort of continue as like the kindling after fire of logs that are hot to the touch, but aren't really burning. They don't have the same heat as they once did. And I think that's the way it's been with this whole election cycle. We realize it doesn't matter. Things are not going to get more affordable. The world is not going to go back to the way it was. Other countries will rise, other countries will fall, but the decline is here. It may be fast, it may be slow. We can maybe get out, maybe we can't. I don't know. But the rules don't exist anymore. Rome has fallen. And who picks up the crown in the gutter? Hopefully the Lord Jesus. So the Timcast. They start talking about AI, demons and schizophrenia, things you would never expect these people to be talking about. It was a great show. Like I said, it was a great show. It was interesting topics. Go check it out. But I mention it because everyone knows on some level that something's wrong. A lot of you can sense that a lot of people aren't all there. We don't fix things. We don't build things. We try to keep things going and try to keep things going another day further. I know. I mean, I've tried to talk so many people into doing things. I mean, Argentina, God bless them, they have just privatized their currency, basically, and allowed people to do contracts and whatever, and made it a lot easier for people to get down there. Really should take a second look at that if you're not doing it, if means allow. And they may not. We've been working for years, and we're still not there. I still have to finish paying for my Hubble. But we're getting there. We're close. We're real close. If we can get through one more bad stretch of winter, 90 days of frozen hell that is northern Maine, we'll be okay. Not that you guys are so worried. Some of you are worried about us. And for those of you who are, God bless, and our prayers are with you. Dana hasn't been doing so well, so if you can say a prayer for her, that'd be helpful. She might have the flu or something. But my wife is a brave warrior whose body is held together, I think, pretty much by her own will at this point. So, and of course, the Lord's kindness toward me, perhaps, although I would understand if she doesn't have to see the horrible things coming, because she's a good person. I'm not a good person. I have nice impulses, and I have a small degree of empathy I haven't lost. We were talking about that today, talking about jabs, and, if all these people who got that, if they eventually get sick and die, not necessarily from the jab, but from their immune system being out of whack, are we in civilizational collapse and we don't know it? I mean, imagine this, because I've thought about it a lot. Let's say that within 5 years, 50% of the people who did what was medically advised died. Not necessarily from that, but from whatever. Well, what happens when the world loses a couple billion people? And wars are taking away a couple more billion people, and systems break down, and you can't feed all the people you had before. And then, of course, people are fighting over the resources, just like the hood always becomes. You end up with wars of which gang is the toughest, Inserts into that the ideologies of tribalism, socialism, hivism, AI believers, drone warfare. I was thinking about this. Our allegiances, so what are our allegiances? Who are we as people? Whatever we perceive, right? The first most basic thing, go a little schizo for you here, is what you decide is your sensory acceptable input, right? Do you believe the world is just visual, or do you believe it's something more? I spend a lot of time on this question because I think our eyes trick us. There's a whole lot going on beyond the visual spectrum that plays a role in the way this world works, and we don't see any of it. And we learn from a very early age to believe what we can see and what we can prove with a certain limited logic, or illogic if you're of a certain age. I guess that's true for people who are woke. They have certain different standards they have to apply. But both of them are kind of BS because we don't really know. We're back at Descartes. But I'm going to assume I'm real. And I'm talking to you. Maybe I'm just talking to myself. I'm going to assume you're real, too, because it makes it a little more fun for both of us. So then what is it? What made us? That's the first question. I believe the Lord Jesus Christ saved us, and God made us for creation for reasons we can't begin to comprehend, but I'm thankful that he gave us a chance, and I hope to continue the journey. So I'm here to serve like Hulkamania, going through you. Glad to see you join the flock, brother. For those who don't know, Hulk Hogan had a baptism today, which I think is actually great. Dude's 70 years old. It's great. It's fine. It's good. And I'm sure he's seen a lot, but you know what? God's grace is better than all of our mess-ups, and we all got a bunch of them. And we're going to get a lot more before this is done, so don't think you're above that. If you do, you probably got it wrong. Family. Got loved ones you got to protect. Maybe you got some kids. Maybe you got your parents. Maybe you have a wife, a husband, brother, sister, son, daughter. I don't know. The people who are close to you. Might not be by blood. That's okay, too. That's okay. And that's your next ring. But then what after that, right? The people who reside around you? Maybe. Maybe not anymore. Nationhood? What's it mean to be an American? I have no damn clue. I mean, I probably have more loyalty to my Telegram crew, that I used to have than I do anything on these things, because at least those are people I talk to. And maybe it's because I've become a bit of a shut-in, and I know that. A lot of people have because we can't afford to participate in reality. I'm lucky if I can afford to participate in the diet I need to provide for my wife to be healthy at the supermarket. We find a way because we're clever and we planned and we prepared and we grabbed and saved things for years, and, we do what we have to do. But we struggle to get by. I mean, up here in northern Maine, there's a million jobs and none of which I could ever get because I didn't get jabbed. And that's why I knew New England was screwed. So I stopped fighting for it. It's not worth it. Can't save it. Everyone went down the hill. I mean, maybe the land will still be here, but this land... New England's a little spooky, right? It has a feeling to it. I had a friend, though, tell me. He said an interesting thing of the state of Maine. Because, no one ever knows why Maine is named Maine. I don't know either. I've read books on it. There's a region in northwest France and Brittany area that was named that, but it doesn't really make sense either. But it's named Maine, and he said the center of it is I, and then the beginning of it backwards is AM, and then you go other way, it's NE. So I am NE, he said to me. Interesting man, old dude, smart guy. And I was thinking about that, and that's what a lot of people have done in history. They go up here to this region to find themselves in the quiet and in the Intish background, and maybe I did. I'm going to go down, get myself a Raspberry Gaucho, and be, sipping on a Malbec. That's the plan. And I'm looking forward to it. It's a new adventure. Maybe the last adventure. And maybe I'll get there, and maybe I won't. And maybe it'll be a good idea, and maybe it won't. But the thing is, and I say this with all heart, you can see the wheels are coming off the wagon. People are just going through the motions, and it's not enough. There's no energy. There's no vigor. The people at the top are corrupt and destroying it and putting themselves on a cycle of destruction. It's going to take down the U.S., Europe, and frankly, I'll just say it, the Zionists are pushing it, and the people who are following them are on it. The Bible said this was going to happen. And so many Christians are going along with it that it is, well, the Lord has a sense of humor. I mean, Jesus was incarnated into the tribe, wasn't he? But I just want to encourage you. Excuse me, things get caught in the beard all the time. I want to encourage you as we go through the holiday season. We don't celebrate Christmas in this household, I'll say. Nothing against Christ, love Christ. But I've studied Saturnalia, all that stuff, the Mithraic rites. I know why they do it. I get syncretism. I've had all the arguments. Anything that brings people to Christ is a good thing. I celebrate that. I don't want to celebrate the commercialism and the BS and all that. So we'll just leave it where it is. Take the good, leave the bad. Got to do that sometimes. Because a lot of times we have to swallow a pill these days. It's not like we just get good things. You swallow a pill, you take the meat in your mouth and you got to spit out the bones. It's not all neatly cooked these days. And you try to look for the good, and there's not as much of it. It's not as much of it. But if there is good, it has to come from within. It has to come from how we treat each other. It has to come from how we handle ourselves. You live in a world where you are much more of a free agent now than you ever were. Even if you followed the rules, even if you've never had, pleasant heart-to-heart conversations with members of federal law enforcement, like certain people in this conversation have had multiple times, over things you were right about, by the way. Again, not that that matters at this point, but I mean, it is useful to kind of know what's coming so you can at least shield and go, protect yourself. But to me, it's sobering. Background as a medievalist, a lot of study of European history. Didn't understand what the fall felt like. It's like the energy is just spent and the car won't keep going down the road. Or you had just enough gas and one system goes and another system goes. Heck, my own car is like that. I mean, it really is. And you just keep it going because getting a new one isn't worth it. And keeping the old ones going is all you can do. And sometimes we're in a spot like that. And that's the way it is with nations and politics and parties and ideologies. The young people are checked out. They're on media. They're on TikTok, I guess. I don't know. Seeing something different. Because there's no real world to connect to. They can't afford it. It's been stolen from them. And it's no accident. You could say that there are elites and globalists leading this. And they're seeking to weaponize it. And they see a world that's going to be mostly empty where AI is going to save them. Okay. Let them have their singularity. It's a death sentence. But they might impose it on us and we'll have to resist it. That's fine. I understand that. I mean, it's a logical breakdown of secularism as religion, right? That at the end of the day, you want to live forever because this is all there is, so you want to give it to everybody. So what do? You turn people into inorganic matter because it can't die. You forget the fact it doesn't live, but that's usually the way those sort of totalitarian ideologies go. And we know that. We do know that. And now, what does that leave the rest of us? They were saying, where's the Civil War and the insurrection? Dude, we can't afford it. I mean, the only thing we could do is burn cities down. Who wants to do that? You think the people who sustain this civilization are evil insurrectionists? They were just people who wanted their families to live well. They wanted a future for their kids. They believed in their heritage. And you've given them nothing to fight for, either for or against you. So you're going to have to deal with your own corruption and your own swarms and your own mobs and when they consume you. Because you lit fires like an arsonist, not looking which way the wind would blow. You shot poison gas canisters, and then all of a sudden, the Lord opens his mouth. And that's where we are. I don't know any secret event. There's no great background I can give you on all this. Thought I heard a little critter out there somewhere. Happens. We're in the country. I do know that the old rules do not matter as much. I mean, they'll be selectively employed, and I'm not saying you don't need to be aware of things, but everything has been hollowed out. Everything is empty. Everything is gone. At least here in where I see in America, and from what I hear from my friends in Europe, there seems to be some optimism in the other parts of the world because they've put order to things. You cannot live out of chaos, and they think they're going to put in new order, and it's going to be happier. It's a terrible order. You don't have the parts for it. You think you're just going to overwrite everyone and have us all fight one another and say, hey, here's your miracle. If it ever gets to the point where it goes that bad, they're going to shoot them too. And they should. Dark ages happen. You know why dark ages happen? Because knowledge outpasses wisdom. That's where we are. We are not wise. We are incredibly foolish. We do not ask questions about whether or not we do things and it's a good idea. Oh, we're going to do it and see what happens. All right. That's one way to break apart society. Break the bonds of friendship. I'm glad people are asking better questions. And I don't know. You know, my worldview is colored by things that I know are heavily manipulated. Conversations with a few smart people I appreciate, and a lot of things I get to see that do not necessarily reflect the full reality. But I do travel a little bit. And I see the emptiness. I do. The hollowness. It's the great hollow. We stared into the abyss, and now we're addicted at looking at it going down the drain. Like one of those coins you'd put into, like, the fountain and go down when you were a kid. You know, they'd go swirl for, like, 5 minutes. It's a quarter, and you'd watch, oh, it's the coolest thing. And it was entertaining. A little bit of physics, a little bit of, what do you call it, circumlocution. But that's what we see. And I could go into all the details in the world. I mean, things aren't getting better. Now the Ukrainians want to try to get the Ukrainians abroad and bring them back to fight for them. Let's see how all that works. It's going to be voluntary. Of course it is. I'm sure Svetlana is going to want to go back and go get shot by Ivan. Hopefully Russia finishes that soon for the mercy of all of them. It's so disgusting. All of Eastern Europe, even like Tuscan Poland now. You know, what happened, it's the same story. What happened in Poland is there was a right-wing party leading who listened to the globalists and said, we're going to support what's happening in Ukraine for various reasons. Poland and Russia have history, and with problems on both sides. They do a whole bunch of things and help all these Ukrainians, so the Polish people get pissed off because there's nothing for them. So then they stay home. The left wing comes in there, and now here come the Rainbow Flag Brigade. Democracy, gotta love it, man. If democracy dies in darkness, as it says, bring on the night, man. I'm ready for the night. It's the it's the longest night of the year, actually. Today's December 21st, right? It's the longest night. It's probably cloudy out there, but if it isn't, I'll go check out the stars in a little bit. So one thing we've always gotten right, Dana and I, we live in places that are pretty. At least for a little while longer. Here, it's pretty and it's dead, but that's okay. All we do is we're basically playing the load of screen for Oregon Trail at this point, and that's okay. What do I want to share with you? I just want to share this thought that we are no longer playing in the old game and the old rules. And maybe you are where you live. Maybe you're insulated. But I will tell you, as someone who's not and who travels enough to see, enough people aren't that this is going to catch. And you can live in your little gated area, and you can pretend the world is the way it used to be. But a lot of people did things by habit that didn't make sense because they had been done since time immemorial, generations even. And COVID took that away from us. Not even the jabs. The jabs are going to do what they're going to do. I suspect it's going to be really bad, but slow. Maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't matter if I'm wrong. What has been done is enough because the old relationships have been broken. The decoupling has happened. The ship no longer is hitting the gas pedal. And it can go forward for a little while. Can't steer. Can't stop. Can't turn. Can't change. Head for a lifeboat. Or enjoy the last nights on it. That's fine. I think you have to make those decisions. But that's where we are. And I don't say this as a black pill, by the way. People would say, oh, that's so miserable. It's reality. The system didn't work. The contradictions were too many, That's how the dialectic breaks. So why did I spend the time telling you what your priorities are? Find your tribe, man. Find your belief and chase it. Chase it now while there's still resources. What is hard today will be harder tomorrow, okay? Time is not your friend in this sense. Unless you have everything exactly where you want it, how you want it, and if you do, hey, Lord's blessing to you. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas. You will probably hear from me in the coming days because I do have some time off. I don't know what I'm going to cover, as something has to come to me. You know, I'm reading books, taking it easy. I'm a little ahead on my work for once, you know. I'm thinking about how much easier it used to be. All I did was write books about big ideas and fixing systems and fights that were controlled. But the reason I was good at analysis is that I'm really good at balancing multiple variables. Maybe too much time playing grand strategy, you know. Anyone out there who knows Paradox, how long you can play those games. My EU hours are ridiculous. But when you learn multivariate analysis, okay, and whether you learn it through math or through practice or through life, because you can learn these things intuitively. I mean, you learn calculus when you shoot a hoop, basketball. What you eventually will realize is that there comes a point where there's too many things that are moving aside, or there are too many not just independent, but dependent variables that are going to pull each other along. The crisis of competence is real. The systemic problems are going to multiply. I don't make predictions on time because I'm bad at it, and I know that. But we are past critical mass. I know that too. And I think this next election cycle is going to prove that. I'm pretty sure of it. I do not look forward to next fall, and I am saying this as a matter of public record. I'd advise you to be out of the country by then, if you're going to do it. I am. And there's global consequences to that as well. I mean, because, it's just hilarious listening to the Orwellian doublespeak. We're here fighting for democracy, so we have to throw our opponents in jail. Okay. I don't like democracy. Don't like republicanism either. Put your faith in the Lord Jesus Christ and those who support him, all right? God bless each and every one of you. A blessing and prayer for each of your family. If you feel called to support us, hey, we could use it. I know everyone's suffering, but it would help. Venmo, CVC, PRV, P.O. Box 343, Eagle Lake, Maine, 04739. And go check out the books on Amazon. They're always fun as a stocking stuffer. And you can see how many things I was right about. All right. God bless you guys. Have a great day. Tom Kaczynski out, and I will see you soon.